I Was a Rat, exclamation mark, is about a boy who says he had been a rat. Now, this little boy turns up at the very beginning of the story on a doorstep on a winter's night, I suppose. And it's a house belonging to an old couple who, in the old fairy tale way, always wanted to have a child and never did. And then there's a knock on the door, and there's a little boy standing there in a sort of tattered page's uniform, and he says, "I was a rat." That's all he can say, "I was a rat." And so, of course, they take him in and they look after him, and all sorts of adventures follow. When I was writing I Was a Rat, there were a couple of things that were going on in the background of what you might call current events. One was the perennial issue of the newspapers and how they distort stories and inflame popular feelings about this, that, or that, and then turn on a sixpence, and they want everybody to hate this person. Then suddenly they change and they want them to love this person. It's so hypocritical and so such a crazy way of behaving. It seemed to me worth satirising a bit. And the other thing was the princess angle. I won't say too much about that, but there was a connection there in my mind between a real princess and the princess in this story. And I thought it would be interesting just to touch on it a little bit and bring it out and show a parallel there, without hammering the matter, without making it too obvious. But it's there if you want to look for it. In my earlier life, I was a teacher. And it was a long, long time ago, before the national curriculum came in or anything of that sort. And I had a sort of free hand, a fairly free hand. And one of the things I wanted to do every year with the children I taught, it was a middle school, children from 9 to 13. And I wanted to do a school play every year. And I wrote them. I wrote 7 or 8 plays for one a year, and I put them on. That was enormous fun. I had such fun doing that, such pleasure I got out of it. I could have stayed happily doing that for the rest of my life. I used to find it most enjoyable and most rewarding of all when I saw all the audience, children and parents and adults, laughing at the same time, or sort of sitting, waiting for what was going to happen next, what's going to happen at the same time. I loved that. And that was that was my reward, really. And whenever I've written a book after that, some of whose audience I think will be children, I always hope that if their parents read it, they get the same sort of pleasure that their children are getting, if they're sharing it, at bedtime or something. That's very much the sort of expectation and hope I have with regard to a play that anyone else makes of my books. That it will be a show that the whole family will enjoy, and enjoy in the same way at the same time. And I don't mean, some clever wordplay for the grown-ups and a bit of silly slapstick for the children. I don't mean that at all. I mean everybody enjoying the same things at the same time. And I think the way to do that is probably to put people with whom we sympathise deeply in situations that are difficult or painful or dangerous or exciting or funny, and then you hope that everybody will respond in the same way. I'm very excited by the idea of this particular production, because I hope it's going to have all sorts of other dimensions, music and acrobatics and performance of every kind. I know that the tradition it will come out of is that of Italy, the Italian Commedia dell'arte, perhaps, which is a tradition I love. I never have worked with a Commedia dell'arte company, but I wish I had. I wish I'd had the chance to when I was younger. I've never laughed so much as when I saw an Italian Commedia dell'arte company, perform a play at the Oxford Playhouse. It nearly reduced me to absolute apoplexy with merriment. It was just so funny. And it was the tradition that did it, that way of performing, that way of being a mask and yet being a human being as well. And that's what I hope very much will happen with this one. I've had a couple of fascinating conversations with Teresa, the director, and I think we've quickly realised we were on the same wavelength when it comes to storytelling and comedy. So I'm sure she'll make a wonderful job of it. It's just so interesting watching how people tell one's stories. This production will be able to tour, and that's a great joy to me as well, because it's nice to think that people in this city or that city or this region or that region will also be able to see the work that the cast and the director and the scriptwriter and everybody else has put into it, and see the story that I mean, that's nice. And it's also a nice link to the old days of the travelling theatre, when actors would trundle from in their cart from one marketplace to another and put up their little rudimentary bit of scenery and act away, and then collect their money, pass the hat round, and then move on again. That's a nice link as well.